Secrets beneath the tide. The first time Dr. Elias Carter saw her, she was only a shadow slipping through the reef, a whisper of silver and moonlit eyes. The others on the National Geographic team dismissed the sighting as a trick of the light, but Elias knew better. And then, one night, she found him. While the other divers slept on the research boat, Elias had been floating in the warm shallows, lost in thought, when a soft splash broke the silence. He turned, and there she was. Honor. At first, she was wary, watching him like a creature studying a threat. But when he didn't reach for a camera, didn't chase her, didn't speak, she came closer. Curious. Cautious. That night, she swam with him. Slow at first, testing his patience. But as the nights turned to weeks, she became something else, a glow of grace, a streak of silver cutting through the sea, always just out of reach. No matter how hard he tried to keep up, she would dart ahead, laughing, a sound that hummed through the water like a forgotten song. And he didn't mind losing. He only wanted more time with her. Each night, they talked, not in words, but in gestures, in glances beneath the waves, in fingertips brushing against the current. She would weave between the corals, pulling him along, challenging him to swim faster, to dive deeper. And when he failed, gasping for breath, she would simply smile. But danger loomed. The team was growing restless. Too many close calls. Too many near captures. The National Geographic expedition wasn't just here to observe anymore. They wanted proof. Elias knew he had to protect her. So he led the others away, misdirecting their search, falsifying reports, erasing evidence. He covered her tracks, her ripples in the sea, the bioluminescent glow that sometimes betrayed her in the dark. He knew it was reckless. Knew that if they found out, his career would be over. But every time on a surface beside him, her eyes reflecting the endless blue, he knew there was only one truth. She was worth it. And though he hadn't yet found the words to tell her, his heart had already decided. The sanctuary of tides. The team was watching him now. Elias could feel it, the way conversation stopped when he entered the room, the way his dive logs were double-checked, the way the expedition leader, Dr. Halverson, always seemed to be nearby when he surfaced. They knew he was hiding something. And they were right. For weeks, Elias had misled them, steering their searches away from the places Honor frequented. He altered sonar readings, dismissed footage of glimpses, scales flashing in the deep, a shadow vanishing into coral. But their patience was running thin. It was only a matter of time before they closed in. That night, Honor found him again. She surfaced just beyond the glow of the boat, her expression unreadable in the silver moonlight. Elias swam out to meet her, but before he could speak, she took his hand. Come. Now? There was urgency in her touch, something he had never felt before. He didn't hesitate. They swam, cutting through the dark sea like two ghosts slipping through the tides. Elias' lungs burned as they traveled farther than ever before. But Honor was effortless. She slowed for him, letting him rest against the rolling waves before pulling him forward again. Faster. Deeper. Away. And then, he saw it. An island, small, untouched, hidden from the world by jagged cliffs and endless sea. A secret. Her secret. As they reached the shore, Elias stumbled onto the sand, gasping for air. Honor stood in the shallows, watching him with something that almost resembled relief. "This is your home," he murmured. She nodded. A sacred place. A place no human had ever set foot. Elias turned back toward the sea, heart pounding. Would the team follow? Would they find him? Find her? Honor reached for his hand again, and in that moment, he knew he wasn't going back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Here, on her island, they were safe. For now. The lab beneath the harbor. Dr. Halverson had always known the ocean held secrets. But unlike Elias, he didn't want to protect them. He wanted to own them. For years, he had prepared for this, a facility hidden beneath the harbor, deep where no sunlight reached, where no curious eyes would ever look. It was a masterpiece of deception, disguised as part of the island's outdated infrastructure. A maze of intake pipes, saltwater tanks, and reinforced glass. On the surface, it was nothing more than a forgotten research station. But beneath, it was a prison. A place built for one purpose: to hold her, to study her, to break her. The trap is set. The team had been close to capturing the mermaid before, too close. But every time, Elias had interfered. Halverson had suspected him for weeks, watching as he led them away from their best leads, falsifying evidence, erasing sonar readings. But that was fine. Because Halverson didn't need Elias' help to catch her. He needed honor to trust the wrong person. The pipes beneath the island ran deeper than Elias ever realized. They pulsed with the tides, moving water in unnatural ways, subtle shifts that only something born of the ocean would notice. And when the time was right, those pipes would do exactly what they were designed for. They would pull her in. The captive world. The moment she was inside, the current would shift, a surge of force that no creature, not even a mermaid, could fight. She would be dragged through the darkness, through a labyrinth of twisting tunnels, her strength stolen by confusion and exhaustion. And when she finally surfaced again, gasping, battered, she would not be in the open ocean. She would be in the tank, surrounded by glass, alone, trapped, a relic of the sea, stolen and sealed away. And no one, not Elias, not the world, would know where she had gone. Stolen by the tide. Elias knew something was wrong the moment he returned to camp. The air felt empty. Wrong. The team was packing up. Equipment cases snapped shut, dive gear was loaded onto the boat. It was over. But he hadn't been told why. Then he saw Dr. Halverson, smirking. The pit in Elias' stomach grew heavy. He searched for answers, pushing through the researchers, scanning their faces. Where was honor? Had they seen her? Nothing. No one spoke of her. No one even looked at him. Then he noticed the sealed containers, the classified reports being locked away. The divers weren't just leaving. They had taken something. And he knew. They had her. The hunt for the vanished. Elias fought to keep his panic down. He needed a lead, any lead. But Halverson had planned this too well. The official reports said nothing about a mermaid. Just another successful marine expedition. But Elias was no fool. He scoured the island for clues, questioned the remaining staff, searched the ocean until his lungs ached from diving too deep, too long. But honor was gone. No trace. No ripple in the water. Then, he found the pipes. Ancient tunnels beneath the island, disguised as part of the old research station. A network leading somewhere deep, somewhere no one would think to look. A place beneath the harbor. The glass prison. Honor drifted, weak, silent. The salt water in the tank kept her alive, but the walls stole her freedom. Thick glass, steel barriers, artificial currents that tricked her body into feeling the ocean, but it wasn't the same. It was a lie. She had fought when they took her. Fought until her body gave out, until exhaustion won. Now, she floated, her silver eyes dull, her tail barely moving. Above her, she could hear voices. Scientists. Notes being scribbled. Machines humming. And then, Halverson's voice. We have her. No one will ever know. She closed her eyes. But deep down, she still believed. Elias would come. He had to. Dreams of the deep. The tank was cold. Colder than the sea had ever been. The currents were artificial, the water sterile, lifeless. Nothing here belonged to her. And neither did she. Honor had fought until her body gave out, until her song was swallowed by steel walls and endless silence. Now, she drifted in exhaustion, too weak to resist, too tired to care. Then, the dreams came. The ocean that loved her back. She dreamed of him. Of Elias, chasing after her in the waves, always struggling, always falling behind, but never giving up. She could still hear his laughter bubbling through the sea, see the way his eyes shined when he looked at her, as if she was more than just a legend. He never tried to capture her, never tried to claim her, only to know her, to understand her. She had teased him, vanishing into the deep whenever he got too close, only to circle back, just to see if he would follow. And he always did. A fading memory, or a promise. Honor could feel the cold pressing into her now, pulling her away from the dream. From him. But she held on to it, desperate. She had to believe he was searching. Had to believe that the way he looked at her meant something. That he felt it too. That somewhere, even now, he was coming for her. The deepest choice. The reef's edge plunged into darkness. A sheer drop into the unknown. The last dive. The team's final sweep before leaving. Elias adjusted his gear, but his hands were shaking. Not from the cold. Not from fear. From what he was about to do. The memories crashed over him like a tidal wave, Honor's laughter echoing through the sea, the way her silver eyes caught the moonlight. How she had always waited for him, even when she was too fast, too free. She had chosen to let him in. And now she was suffering for it. And he loved her. The realization hit like a storm, but there was no time to dwell on it. No time to wonder if she had felt it too. Because if he didn't act now, he would never see her again. The leap? He checked his air, gave a final nod to the team, then he dove. But not with them. He turned away from the mission. Away from the lies. He swam toward the harbor. Toward the hidden pipes, the facility beneath the city, the place where she was trapped. This was no longer about science. No longer about proof. This was about her. And he was going to get her back. Set free by love. Elias' heart pounded as he swam through the dark maze of pipes, pushing past every warning, every fear. The facility loomed ahead, hidden, silent, a cage beneath the sea. And inside it, she was waiting. When he found her, Honor was barely moving, her silver eyes dull, her body weakened from the experiments. The sight shattered him. But as soon as she saw him, something flickered back to life. Hope. With shaking hands, Elias worked fast, disabling the locks, overriding the system. Sirens blared. The water surged as pressure doors malfunctioned. They would come for him. But it didn't matter. The tank cracked open, seawater rushing in like a flood of freedom. Go, he whispered. Swim. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she reached out, just once. A touch against his hand. A silent thank you. There, she was gone. The great escape. The divers were waiting. They had expected this. But they had never seen her at full strength. She exploded through the water, a blow of silver and speed. They chased her, net spreading, sonar tracking her every move, but Honor was the ocean itself. She twisted, dug, vanished into the reefs, leaving them scrambling in her wake. And when the last light of their flashlights disappeared, when the last echo of their shouts faded into nothing, she was free. The memory that never fades. In the safety of the open sea, Honor swam with her own again, the great whales, the ancient turtles, the creatures of the deep who had never known cages. But as she glided through the waves, she always remembered him. The man who had chased her, not to capture, but to know her. The man who had fought for her freedom. The man she had loved. And though they belonged to different worlds, though she would never see him again, she carried him in her heart, always. For some loves, even the ocean cannot wash away. Whispers of the tide. The years passed, but the ocean never forgot. Every now and then, in the quiet hours before dawn, fishermen whispered of a shadow beneath the waves. A flicker of silver in the moonlight. A song carried by the tide. A mermaid. Crowds gathered on the docks, hopeful, eager, but she was always just out of reach. A ghost of the deep. A mystery they would never solve. And beneath the water, Honor swam, free. But sometimes, when the currents were gentle, when the sea stretched endless before her, she would stop. And she would remember. She would think of him. Of his kindness. Of the way he had fought for her, risked everything for her. Of the way his eyes had searched for her in the dark, even when he knew he could never truly hold her world in his hands. They had loved each other. Truly. Deeply. And yet, they would never know. But love, like the ocean, has no end. And so, whenever she passed the shore where she had last seen him, where his world met hers, she would pause, just for a moment. And then, with a flick of her tail, she would disappear beneath the waves once more.